Freeze. You're under arrest for illegal flower planting. That's what she screamed at my wife that morning. Like we were starring in some suburban episode of Cops No One Asked For. 3 strangers in fake uniforms, badges that looked like they came from a Halloween store, shouting orders in my own front yard while my wife knelt in the dirt with a trowel in her hand. The absurdity hit me before the anger did. I mean, who arrests a schoolteacher for planting marigolds? But it got worse, because those people weren't just pretending to be HOA officers. They were about to learn that they had just picked a fight with the wrong family and the wrong federal badge. Let me back up a bit. My name's Jacob Reed. I've been a deputy U.S. Marshal for 18 years. I've tracked fugitives through cornfields, knocked down doors in cartel cases, and testified in courtrooms where the stakes could end a man's life. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what went down that weekend at our mountain cabin. Not the tactical training, not the courtroom politics, not the years of keeping calm under pressure. Because this wasn't about criminals. It was about neighbors and one woman's crusade to enforce rules that didn't even exist. It started the day before, all sunshine and coffee and peace. My wife, Dana, had been looking forward to that weekend for weeks. She's a third-grade teacher with the patience of a saint and the heart of a gardener. On the drive up to our cabin outside Boulder, she made me stop at a nursery because, in her words, the front bed looks like it gave up on life. So she bought a flat of yellow marigolds and promised she'd only spend an hour planting them. I remember teasing her. Just an hour? You sure? She smiled and said, okay, maybe 2. That smile, it's the reason I don't mind half the things that make no sense to me. Saturday morning was perfect, the kind of crisp air that feels like it cleans out your lungs. I was inside making coffee, watching her from the kitchen window, her old college sweatshirt hanging loose, jeans streaked with dirt, hair tied up messy. I remember thinking, this is the life. Simple, honest, quiet. But there was something else that morning too, something strange. Across the road, on her porch, a woman was standing with binoculars, watching us. I laughed at first. Who does that? Who watches their neighbors plant flowers? She had a clipboard in one hand, binoculars in the other, and she kept writing something down like she was auditing our front yard. Dana noticed, waved, trying to be friendly. The woman lowered her binoculars, stared, and went inside without waving back. Jake, Dana called. That lady keeps staring at us. It's kinda creepy. I stepped outside, looked around, but she was gone. Don't worry about it, I said. Some people just need hobbies. That, right there, was my first mistake. See, in my line of work, I'm trained to recognize danger. But when it comes wrapped in khakis and a white polo shirt, holding a clipboard instead of a gun, you don't see it the same way. You think it's harmless. You think, what's the worst she can do? I didn't know yet that she'd been watching us for weeks, building a case that existed only in her mind. Her name was Linda Warren. She'd lived in that neighborhood for 15 years, self-appointed guardian of community standards. She believed rules kept people safe, order prevented chaos. I'd learn later that she lost her daughter, Emily, in a car crash caused by a reckless driver 2 years earlier, and somewhere in that grief, her need for control metastasized into obsession. That morning, she wasn't just being nosy. She was documenting evidence for what she thought was a rescue mission. At 10:17, while I was pouring my second cup of coffee, Linda came marching across the road like she was leading a SWAT raid. She wasn't alone. A man and an older woman trailed behind her, both wearing navy shirts with cheap patches that read Community Security Enforcement. Linda had swapped her binoculars for a yellow measuring tape and a fancy-looking camera. She didn't even say hello, just started snapping pictures of the marigolds like they were contraband. Ma'am, I called out, walking down the steps, can I help you with something? She looked at me with this strange mix of pity and superiority. You can start by stepping back, sir. This area is under inspection for landscaping violations. Dana stood up, dirt on her knees, confused. Landscaping violations? We're planting flowers. Linda lifted her clipboard like a priest with a Bible. Article 47B, non-native species planted without approval of the Architectural Committee. I blinked. Architectural what? There's no HOA out here. This is unincorporated county land. She ignored me, snapping photos, muttering into her phone recorder. Unapproved modifications visible from public easement, probable code breach. Her little crew nodded seriously, like they were filming an episode of Law and Order, Flower Unit. Dana tried to stay calm. We weren't told about any committee when we bought this cabin. Ignorance of community standards, Linda said, is not a valid defense. You have 2 hours to remove these unauthorized plantings, or enforcement action will be initiated. Enforcement action? I laughed. Lady, what are you talking about? That's when she softened her tone, turned to Dana, and said, You don't have to protect him anymore. Help is coming. It wasn't anger in her voice. It was pity, like she genuinely believed she was saving my wife from me. I stepped closer. Excuse me. She didn't answer. Just walked away, phone to her ear, whispering, It's happening, Jim. Just like we talked about. By the time I turned back, Dana's eyes were wide with worry. Jake, what is going on? I didn't have an answer. I told her to go inside, lock the door, and wait. 40 minutes later, a county sheriff's cruiser pulled up. My stomach dropped. Out stepped a uniformed deputy, real badge, real gun, real authority. Deputy Tom Patterson, he introduced himself. We got a report of domestic intimidation involving a federal officer. I froze. Hey, what? Linda appeared from her porch, phone held high. That's him, deputy. He's been threatening me for days, trying to silence me. That's a lie, I said. This woman trespassed on my property this morning, taking photos without consent. The deputy frowned, pulling out a tablet. Sir, Mrs. Warren provided video evidence. It shows you yelling aggressively in her direction. She'd edited the footage. On her version, I looked furious, towering over her, while she sounded small and frightened. I felt my pulse thudding. Deputy, I never raised my voice. She's staging this. But the comments on her live stream were already pouring in. Arrest him. Poor woman. Federal thugs think they're untouchable. My wife stepped out onto the porch, shaking. This is crazy, she said. My husband hasn't done anything. Patterson sighed. Ma'am, it's common for victims to defend their abusers. Before I could even respond, Linda spoke softly to her camera. We're protecting her now. Justice for Emily starts here. Her 2 officers flanked Dana like they were about to escort her somewhere safe. I moved forward instinctively. Don't you touch her. Stop, Linda shouted. He's escalating again. Jake, Dana pleaded. Please, just let's go inside. The next sound was the snap of handcuffs closing around her wrists. Something in me shifted in that instant. The husband stepped back, and the lawman stepped forward. United States Marshals Service, I said, voice steady, trained. Everyone freeze. The yard went dead silent. Rob, the fake guard, dropped the phone he was reading Miranda rights from. The older woman let go of Dana like she'd touched electricity. Patterson's hand twitched toward his holster, eyes wide as he processed what I'd just said. I'm Supervisory Deputy Marshal Jacob Reed, District Office, Denver. What you are witnessing is the unlawful detention of a federal officer's spouse by individuals impersonating law enforcement. Release her immediately. I pulled out my credentials, held them up high so everyone, in the live stream, could see. Rob Williams. Margaret Collins. You're committing federal kidnapping under Title 18, Section 1201. Step back now. Their confidence crumbled. Rob fumbled with the cuffs, mumbling, Oh man. Oh man. Patterson, to his credit, regained control fast. Sir, let me verify this. Please do, I said, and start documenting everything, because you're about to have the easiest case of your career. Linda was still streaming, voice shaking but defiant. You see? Federal corruption in action. They're covering for their own. But for the first time, I saw fear crack through her performance. The camera trembled. Dana rubbed her wrists, eyes brimming. Why did they do this? She whispered. Because they believe their own story, I said quietly. Within minutes, backup arrived. Patterson's supervisor confirmed my credentials. The imposters were detained. I gave my statement, every detail precise, every action measured. Years of paperwork habits kicking in. But by then, the damage was already online. Someone clipped the moment I yelled, U.S. Marshals Service, and posted it with a caption, Federal agent threatens elderly woman over flowers. By sunset, the clip hit 50,000 views. By morning, my supervisor's phone was blowing up. CNN was calling. Commentators were debating government abuse like it was a talk show topic. Reed, my boss said on the phone, voice tight. What the hell happened up there? I told him everything. The fake cops, the live stream, the edited footage. Sir, these people impersonated law enforcement. I followed procedure. Just sit tight, he said. Don't post anything. Don't talk to the press. Let internal affairs handle it. Dana sat next to me on the couch, scrolling through the comments. Jake, they're calling you a monster. I tried not to look, but every headline was the same. Flowergate. Federal bully. Justice for Linda. The court of public opinion had already convened, and truth wasn't invited. Then our neighbor Bob knocked on the door. I saw the whole thing, he said, holding up his phone. Got the real video. His footage showed everything. Rob putting on fake patches, Linda rehearsing lines, Margaret reading from a script. It also showed Linda saying, "Target acquired, federal guy. Time to teach him a lesson." Bob grinned. She's been running a fake HOA for a year, collecting fees from folks all over this street. $3,000 in violations alone. By that evening, Patterson was back, with a very different tone. "Mr. Reed, I owe you an apology. We've confirmed Mrs. Warren has been impersonating law enforcement and defrauding residents. She'll be charged." Still, Linda doubled down. She announced a federal overreach rally for Sunday, inviting the same online audience that had made her famous. She set up banners, microphones, chairs, the whole production. I stayed on my porch, watching like a man waiting for a storm to pass. At noon, about 50 people showed up. Some were angry activists, others just rubberneckers. Linda stood there in a bright blue blazer, face full of makeup, voice shaking with conviction. "They're trying to silence me," she declared. "But I will not be silenced." Then Patterson's patrol car rolled in. He stepped up to the mic, papers in hand. "Mrs. Warren," he said calmly, "you're being served with a restraining order and charged with fraud, impersonation, and unlawful detention." Gasps from the crowd. Cameras everywhere. Linda grabbed the mic. "You see? This is proof. Federal intimidation." Patterson didn't flinch. "There is no homeowners association registered in this county, ma'am. You've been collecting fake fees under a false entity." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. People started whispering. Someone pulled up a record search on their phone. You could feel her credibility disintegrate in real time. Desperate, she tried to recover. "I'll show you the evidence," she said, pulling up her edited video on a projector. But when the file loaded, the title read, "HOA Roleplay V3 Final.mp4. Silence. Then murmurs. Someone shouted, "Roleplay." Another said, "She faked it." Her supporters started leaving, folding chairs clattering. Even her fake guard Rob showed up in jeans, dropped a box of badges and clipboards on the table, and said, "I'm done." She told me it was legit. By the end, only a handful of neighbors remained. Linda kept live streaming, voice cracking. "They've all been manipulated. You can't see the truth." And then, through tears, she said it. Emily would want justice. That name hit like a bell. Emily, the daughter she lost. The ghost haunting every rule she enforced. Suddenly, it all made sense. 2 weeks later, Patterson called us down to the sheriff's office. Her complaint triggered a background check, he said. We learned about her daughter. The accident. The man who killed her only got community service. She's been fixated on control ever since. He showed me files, photos of Dana gardening, notes about my job, printouts of our social media posts. One letter started with, "You deserve to be safe from men who break rules." Dana read it in silence. "She thought you were like him," she whispered. "She thought she was saving me. I didn't know what to feel. Anger, pity, maybe both. Grief twists people. Sometimes it makes them want to rebuild the world in their image so nothing can ever hurt again." The trial was quiet. No press, no spectacle. The judge, a gray-haired woman who'd clearly seen it all, read the charges: fraud, impersonation, unlawful detention. Linda pled guilty. Before sentencing, the judge said something that stuck with me. Grief explains behavior. It does not excuse it. Linda got a year in county jail, 2 years probation, and had to pay restitution to every neighbor she scammed. Margaret got community service. Rob was banned from any security work. But here's the part that surprised me. The judge ordered that the restitution money be used to build a memorial garden for Emily, right in the community park. 6 months later, that garden was finished. Dana helped plant it herself. Rows of yellow marigolds, bright and gentle, just like the ones that started it all. The neighbors who once glared at us brought tools, paint, benches. Even Margaret showed up to help kids from Dana's school plant birdhouses. One morning, we walked by and saw Linda there, on her knees, planting flowers as part of her community service. Her hair had gone grayer, her shoulders smaller. She didn't see us, and we didn't speak. Some healing, I've learned, doesn't need words. There's a wind chime hanging in that garden now, made from pieces of the fake badges and broken cuffs they used that day. When the mountain breeze moves through them, they make this soft, haunting sound, part sorrow, part forgiveness. Every time it rings, I think about that morning, about how easy it is for people to lose themselves trying to control others, how grief and pride can masquerade as righteousness. And I think about Dana, her hands in the dirt, choosing to plant beauty instead of bitterness. If you've ever had a neighbor, or anyone, take things too far in the name of doing the right thing, tell me what happened. Do you believe people like Linda deserve forgiveness, or just consequences? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes, justice isn't about punishment. It's about learning when to stop trying to control and start learning how to heal.